Hello, I'm Duncan Alexander from the Analyst.com, and I'm joined by Matt Furniss, also from the Analyst.com, and we're here to do the analysis on Arsenal v Liverpool, which is probably the biggest game in the Premier League this season on prestige and history, if not on current form. So far this season, the two teams have lost 20 games between them. The record in a 38-game Premier League season is 24, which feels like they could surpass that unless they both improve a little bit more over the next few weeks. But anyway, we're here to look at who's going to come out on top at the Emirates on Saturday. So let's get over to Arsenal first as the home team. Matt?
Yeah, so Arsenal this season, they started off pretty poorly. And if you look at their XG trends this season, obviously we're talking about expected goals here, the quality of chances that they both have themselves and afford opponents. You can see here their chart across the season. They started off really poorly, both defensively and in attack. They regressed quite a bit in attack from the previous season over a 5-game rolling average. And the defensive numbers weren't much better either. They were increasing the wrong way. So actually they were conceding better chances over a 5-game period than they were having themselves. But they've turned that around about halfway through the season, and now their attack is much stronger. They had a really good peak around the 20th match day this season that continued for a few weeks. It has reduced a little bit, but now it's peaking back up again. And their defense is performing much better as well. So they are conceding fewer opportunities to their opponents than they're having themselves. Obviously, Liverpool aren't doing so well this season at the moment. And normally we'd expect Liverpool to have better chances against Arsenal. But the way things are at the moment and the way Arsenal are playing, they might have some confidence this weekend going into that game against Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the pandemic and everything, this season is less of a single season and more a series of mini seasons. And some teams have managed to stay fairly consistent between them. Obviously, Manchester City started quite slowly and then have really massively improved. Liverpool have had a period in sort of November, December when they were playing pretty well, I think, and looked like they were going to at least mount a defence of their title, if not, a successful one. But then it really sort of changed after the 7-0 win at Palace. It's strange to see a big win as a turning point for a team in terms of a decline, but that really is how it turned out. The following game, they were at home to West Brom, who had recently appointed Sam Allardyce, and he seemed to sort of break Liverpool as a concept, and they've not really recovered since then. Obviously, a slight improvement in recent games. They've managed to sort of tighten up at the back and grind out a couple of wins. And I guess for them, the fact that this game is at the Emirates is a plus. They've already won 4 games in London this season. Trips to London have been a kind of one of the few positives for Liverpool's league campaign. So I think they'll be fairly confident going to the Emirates, although people remember this game happened very late on in the summer last season after Liverpool had been confirmed champions, and it's a very strange game. It was like a haunting preview of this season in a lot of ways. A few very, at the time, what seemed like unusual defensive mistakes, including one from Virgil van Dijk, and Arsenal managed to win the game having had barely any shots, and Liverpool massively dominating.
Yeah, obviously this game is the game that's seen more goals than any other match in Premier League history of 166. Sorry, it's tied with the most. So they could have the opportunity to go ahead outright with leaders again in the Premier League this weekend. It's also seen the most hat-tricks with 6, 2 for Arsenal, 4 for Liverpool. So maybe we'll see another one this weekend. Going back to Arsenal, I think what we'll see this weekend from them, and we've seen it quite commonly, especially since Christmas, where they changed their formation slightly on Boxing Day against Chelsea, is that we see Granit Xhaka drop into left-sided central defence, and we see the ability of both wing-backs to push on Kieran Tierney and Hector Bellerin. Kieran Tierney this season's created the most open play chances for Arsenal, and together those two have 2 of the 3 highest expected assist ratios for Arsenal this season. So a lot of their chances are created from those fullbacks. And with Bukayo Saka, who's their most creative player this season, likely to be injured this weekend, and Smith Rowe probably out as well, they might rely on those two, as well as the arrival of Martin Odegaard as well, to create the chances for them. So I think a key battle for the match this weekend is the fullbacks. If Bellerin and Kieran Tierney can get the better of Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, then Arsenal might have some success.
Looking at how Liverpool have tightened up defensively recently, you can actually see it on this graph here. The purple line is their, the rolling XG conceded. You can see over the past 2 seasons, it's been pretty good. The defense has been particularly strong. You can see an enormous rise from about game 20 this season. That was when, everything really did start to go wrong. But you can see in recent weeks, it has, started to come back down to 1 again, which isn't brilliant, but it is okay. And I think we've seen that in Liverpool's performances. They have been a little bit more defensive. The worry really is the red line. That was, that really is almost going down to 1 as well. And that has been, I guess, the impact of them tightening up at the back. It has impacted going forward as well. I mean, the start of the season, actually see that red line is over 2 per game. That was when, they were creating good chances. It's just the defense wasn't doing its job. But you can argue that Arsenal away is probably one of the games that really would suit Liverpool, particularly their forwards, to get back on track. I mean, as you said, it's got the joint most goals in Premier League history of any fixture. There's been some really good high-scoring games. There's obviously been Dirk Kuyp's penalty in about the 4,000th minute of one of the games, one of the latest goal in Premier League history. And you can actually see in this graphic here that the front three, the traditional front three, although obviously you'd expect Diogo Jota to play a role in the game, they've got a really good record against Arsenal, particularly Roberto Firmino with 5 goals. Salah's got 5. Obviously, he scores quite a lot against everyone. So they've got 14 goals between them against Arsenal. You mentioned the hat-tricks as well. Well, obviously, Robbie Fowler's hat-trick against Arsenal used to be the fastest in Premier League history. That was overtaken by Sadio Mane when he scored one for Southampton. But obviously, he's got a reasonable record against Arsenal as well. So, yeah, it feels like this game could be the fixture for Liverpool to really kind of reset their season going forward. They kind of tightened up at the back, but now they need to sort of rediscover that attacking flair. I mean, I guess the only concern perhaps for this game is obviously Liverpool back in Champions League action next week against Real Madrid. That is, the biggest match of their season by a long way. So perhaps they'll be, less up for this one than Arsenal, but we'll see.
Yeah, they probably think the Champions League football might be their best to win. That might be the best route into the Champions League again next season, the way things are. So you'd probably think they'll focus more on that game than this one.
Well, they're essentially 5 games away from the Champions League. By winning the Champions League, and their performances have been better. They tend to get more space in the Champions League than they do in Premier League games. So it's not a bad strategy, I don't think. But at the same time, they'll want to kind of keep morale up, I'm sure, by playing well against Arsenal. Well, the game is at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Arguably one of the greatest slots created by the human timing system, in my opinion. So let's hope the game matches that and is a really good one as we ease back into Premier League action after everyone's favourite international break. I hope you've gleaned some information from this video. If you like what you saw/heard, do visit theanalyst.com for loads and loads more stuff. We'll be back very soon with you. So, see you soon.